So today we're coming back with another video. We're going to be talking about the bull run again and my thoughts on if it is actually happening. So we've kind of seen over the past year a kind of difference to what we saw in the previous bull runs. I still think that we're very early into this bull run and this is kind of just the start of it. The main reason I say this, I know looking at charts is not going to really convince anyone necessarily because charts can go up and down, there can be manipulation on it. And there's certain things that are being manipulated in the background with Bitcoin at least. You know, you have a lot of these regulations, SEC, Donald Trump coming in and trying to push cryptocurrency and then launching the meme coin. Wasn't really greatest faith put into cryptocurrency after that because the coin has basically done nothing. It did also suck a lot of the liquidity away from actual coins that are actually being used on a certain network. So for example, Ethereum, Solana, things like that, that the networks are actually used for something. But the Trump coin quote unquote network was only kind of used as a meme coin publicity stunt, I believe. When we look back in history on that, we are going to view it like that, and I'm even viewing it like that currently right now. But when you have a look back here, so this is the previous bull run, so this is the start of the previous bull run. You can see it is kind of lining up exactly how we would see the 2025 one lining up as well. Apart from the fact that we already had new all-time highs, these didn't necessarily hit up to all-time highs here because 19,000 at the time wasn't an all-time high. I believe 20,000 was, but it came up to that. And then it massively shot up, hit an all-time high in January of 2021, came all the way back down into February, and then into February, and along until around May time. That's when the massive bull run was happening. And then we have a second peak here, which is even a higher hike from that one. So this is kind of an extended one because the one back in 2018, you can see only had one peak and then a short blast upwards, but the one in 2020 was kind of double peaked. Now, don't pay too much attention to the charts necessarily. I'm not doing no technical analysis or anything like that, but if you're just looking based on dates, you can kind of see in January time, you expect to see an all-time high because at the time, this was an all-time high. And then if we fast forward it back to where we are now, in December, you kind of see that peak upwards to 106. But technically we did hit an all-time high in January as well. So that was in 2021 that we saw the last all-time high. So 4 years later, basically right on time, you see an all-time high here, January 20th, 786,000. So there is more of an extended period that you're seeing here. We are keeping this slider at the same length so you can kind of confer backwards, but this is less of an extended period that we're seeing here. And mainly, we're seeing this coming from things like the ETF and more adoption into cryptocurrency and less regulation on cryptocurrency, which has pushed investors to actually invest into it. And then we take a hike up from here, 70,000 in November. So let's actually go back here. Let's see what we were at in November. Last time, 12,000 hikes up from there. So it is kind of on track to what we're seeing here. And hopefully from February all the way through till around May time of 2025. That's kind of when we're going to see crypto take off. It might be slightly stalled, just kind of based off how much more things are going on in cryptocurrency right now. You know, there's a lot of outside money, investor money that is coming in through the ETFs, and there's going to be more ETFs for more coins as time goes on. And I think that's going to open up the market a lot more. Now, there is still a question of whether Coinbase is kind of manipulating that, and the supply shock is going to be a lot more just because we're producing way less cryptocurrency right now compared to what it was 4 years ago. And they also didn't have a massive amount of ETFs which needed to be fulfilled in terms of people buying them. So I believe the way that it works is once you have the ETF, if you buy in, they purchase it as spot at that price. So you can guarantee that what you bought is the same amount as the Bitcoin underlying, and then it's just held on Coinbase from there. I always opt for self-custody. Obviously, on the channel, we are mainly miners of cryptocurrency, so I think it's very important to self-custody all of your cryptocurrency, but having some on an exchange in certain times is good. For example, you don't want to maybe spend the UTXO So you would just keep it on an exchange because they technically are not holding yours in a separate wallet to everyone else's. It's all mixed in, and it's just a ledger of how much is in there overall. So if you are going to self-custody it, maybe have a large majority in self-custody, but a certain amount loaded onto an exchange, but with the risk in mind that an exchange can fail at some point. Always go for the bigger ones because it's less of a chance of failing, but there is possibilities. We've seen it with FTX, so it can happen to a Binance or a Coinbase later down the line. You can see as well, the market in the last 30 days is still up by quite a lot. XRP, I don't know why people are saying this is going to $10,000 per coin. It's quite funny to see a lot of people talking about that. And some of those people I actually believe are serious about XRP going to $10,000. I know that it's a joke around the crypto community, I guess, but some people actually believe that it can go up to that, which is interesting because it would put it at way higher market cap than what Bitcoin's at right now, which is, in my opinion, pretty much impossible at this point. So overall, everything is still tracking to Bitcoin at this point. Toncoin actually took a dip off and hasn't really recovered as much. There are a bunch of them out there. Litecoin is recovering a bit more. Hyperliquid recovering a little bit more. I believe that this is an exchange coin. Mantra is recovering a bit more. Ondo, I don't know what any of these are. Personally, we're only into mineable cryptocurrencies, which kind of brings us to the next point, that the cryptocurrency mining scene, I think, is not going to have as much as a bull run as obviously all the meme coins out there. The only reason that cryptocurrency mining was so big back then was because of Ethereum, and whilst Ethereum was having that massive explosion of market cap, people using it, meme coins, NFTs and stuff like that, miners were gaining a huge amount of money from the fees, and that kind of kept miners alive for quite a while during that. However, with the move to proof of stake, we haven't really seen anything out there that can produce that amount of fees to sustain miners as well, especially GPU miners. One of the main things about Ethereum is the memory hardening, which made it harder for ASICs to be on the network, or at least develop them for the network. I know right now we have a bunch of Ethereum Classic miners, but even then GPUs would still be able to compete on the Ethereum network. And as soon as that merged, it was kind of over for miners, and a lot of the miners out there were GPU miners because it was easy to get into and there was easy profits to be made at that time. Plus Ethereum was taken off massively as a cryptocurrency. And then you come to this bull run, which I personally believe Solana is going to be the next Ethereum. I know it's kind of just mainly going to be up there within probably the next couple of months. I don't know if it'll take over USDT. It probably will. XRP, maybe. But I don't think that it's going to overtake Ethereum. I think it's going to try rival it in the next bull run to be the second spot, which would kind of be a momentous thing to see because Ethereum, Bitcoin, and XRP have been up there for the longest time. I think Solana is going to blow past that. But it also brings into question, Solana is not a mineable coin. So are mining coins going to have a nice pump from here? As we said, looking back, Ethereum did have a nice pump, and that's the reason why people flocked to mining. And all the other coins that were mineable as well also had a nice little price spike, like Monero, Ravencoin, Flux, a bunch of those old ones, Litecoin, Dogecoin. And mining was good at that time at least, and there was a lot less competition out there. Right now in the mining space, I think ASICs have kind of taken over. GPU mining is definitely faded away. ASICs has become heavily centralized, and I just think overall nothing really out there can support that massive amount of hash rate and profitability or emissions that was coming out of Ethereum in the last bull run. So we have a list of mining coins here. So we have Bitcoin. I think that's going to do well. I mean, that's kind of a given, but you then have Casper, Xano, Toncoin, technically not mineable, but I've stuck it in there anyway. Dogecoin, I think, is going to do well. It already has been doing well. Monero has the possibility. So you can see listed here, percentage to the all-time high. And as you go down, it drops off. We have Octaspace and Litecoin. Litecoin still has a lot to grow to get back to that all-time high, which was 3 years ago, as you can see there. I also think the altcoin season doesn't necessarily apply to the cryptocurrencies that are mineable. I think as soon as Bitcoin starts to hike up, all of these should go up. And then altcoin season is more for proof of stake cryptocurrencies. That's just how it was in the past, I believe. And as you go down the list, obviously you can see a bunch of them that are out there. Ethereum Classic is still there, and that's actually been producing relatively good profits. But Octaspace has been the main go-to to mine on Ethash algorithms. Then you have Flux, Claw, Zealous, Dynex, Conflux, Ergo, Zill, Nuri, Ravencoin, which, you know, if you want to take a nice bet on Ravencoin, that's a 13x from here, I believe, to the all-time high. Radiant, Nexa, Cadena, Abelian, Ironfish, Neoxa, and Zephyr. A lot of these have basically suffered quite a lot. I don't know if there's going to be a return for them either in the future. So I don't think the old ones are going to spike up as much as you want them to. A lot of them have dropped below this 90% range, which is very hard to recover from. And as you go down in market cap, it gets harder and harder and harder to recover from that. So Xano has a lower market cap compared to these ones that we're seeing here. For example, 411 compared to Casper, Dogecoin, XMR, and Bitcoin, which are around the 1 to 50 range. And then you have Octa, which is about 1,000, which is even lower market cap. And the lower the market cap, the more risk that you're going to take, but obviously the more reward that you can make in the future. So it's all a game of chance, and I mainly focus on proof of work cryptocurrencies, but I don't think that they're going to have much of an explosion as we would hoped for. I think it's just going to be definitely a meme coin bull run that we're seeing. It's all going to flow into Solana at the end of the day, and I think that the overall arching narrative of this bull run is probably going to be meme coins and anything built on Solana at the time, AI that is also built on Solana, or AI agents, things like that. And that's one of the main ways that people are making money currently. In the future, they'll definitely be making more money off that as well. You know, with Trump coming in, we're going to have to see how that works out. Hopefully that can free up some cash in actual retail investors' pockets, so they get in. Same with institutions, you know, that deregulation that they're doing. Hopefully that flows some money into the stock market firstly, but then I know that there's going to be a trickle-down effect into more risky assets like cryptocurrency. One thing that I want to note here as well is that not a lot of people are actually using the Bitcoin network currently. So you see it's happening here. If you don't know, this is the mempool for Bitcoin. So this is how much it clears transactions. And you can see here that this block is basically half full of transactions. And if we go to this here, you can see how many blocks are awaiting in the mempool with transactions in them. But the main thing that I wanted to look at is not that, but this chart that we're seeing here. So if we click on all time, we can actually see previous bull runs. It does get a bit laggy. So you can see here, this is how much the mempool is actually overcrowded. So with these spikes upwards, you can see, I know it is very, very slow in terms of actually loading this data. But back in 2018 was the most transactions or the highest fees that transactions are paid on the network. It drops down here, but for the 2020 run. Then we have a massive spike upwards here in January of 2024. So that was basically a year ago from here. But it looks like nobody is really using the network right now. Currently, we're at very, very lows compared to, you know, we are going into a bull run for Bitcoin. We can take it back to the 3 months. Hopefully, this isn't as slow when we're looking. So here you can see that it's coming right down here, and this is mainly what we're looking at, is the mempool is not filling up, which means that there's not much transactions going on the Bitcoin network necessarily, because the fees would be higher if there was more transactions, which is interesting to see because you would think that a lot of people would be transacting on Bitcoin, seeming we're nearly basically at an all-time high again. But this also might be due to Lightning Network and things like that that are underlying to process transactions, but still, it is kind of worrying to see that not many people are actually using Bitcoin compared to the other times that we're seeing as well. And those fees can't sustain miners going on into the future. So one of the things that is helping to support miners, and we even saw it with the Ethereum mining that we had back in the day, was the fees on the network supporting the miners, and miners were making a lot extra on top because of those higher gas fees. And with Bitcoin, you don't really have that as much if less transactions aren't going onto the network. Even with Ethereum, that hasn't hit an all-time high again since Bitcoin did hit an all-time high. I mean, maybe 3 kind of milestone times. I know that it hits an all-time high every time that it goes up, but mainly the one at 70,000, then maybe 100k, and then the 108,000 I'd regard as all-time highs that are notable at current time. But with Ethereum, it hasn't seemed to really push it up to this all-time high that we're seeing here. And that kind of shows that it is falling off very quickly. Against Solana, you can see here, we'll just click into the chart. You can see the all-time high back in 2021, and it basically gets up to that again. So I think Solana is definitely the play for the next bull run, or the coming bull run that we're kind of entering into right now. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below on all this that we talked about. Mainly leave your opinions on proof of work coins. Let's see if they're going to have a run or not, and maybe leave your opinion on Solana and how that plays out in the future as well. Make sure you like the video and subscribe for more content like this.